Welcome everyone to my latest quick takes video. Today I have a few stocks that we're going to run through very briefly, just taking a look at the price charts. And we do this because it's going to have some key areas for you to watch, the key levels that are setting up, taking shape in these stocks, and it's going to have some potential trade ideas based on our analysis today as we run through these few stocks just by looking at the price charts, with our end goal though to figure out whether or not these are stocks that you want to bank on going higher or stocks that are set to tank and head lower, because my quick takes videos are really under the umbrella of this whole bank it or tank it segment, where I like to run through analysis on stocks with trying to figure out the ultimate trend and the ultimate way to trade these companies. And that comes back to whether or not they're going to be on my bank it list or on my tank it list. So today we got 5 stocks that we're going to run through. So a quick shout out to Sunny, Pamela, Spencer, and Jamie, and a few others that have been writing in through the mailbag lately with some stocks that they wanted me to take a look at. So big thanks to those stocks that you've sent in and the comments that you sent along with those, and everyone else. You can continue to comment on our YouTube channel right below this video. Just let me know what stocks that are on your radar, what stocks you want me to take a look at, and I'll be sure to feature them in one of my upcoming videos. And right before we dive into this though, just take a moment, scroll down, click subscribe if you haven't already, so that way you don't miss out on any of my insights, any of my upcoming videos, these quick takes, bank it or tank it. And we'll continue to produce more content through YouTube channel, so just click subscribe so that way you're always up to date with the latest information. Now let's dive right in. We got our first stock today, so we're going to take a look at Quantumscape. Now Quantumscape is a battery producer, lithium batteries, so they really took off, had this explosive period that you would call a bubble. This was in late 2020. Since then, what happened? The stock crumbled, and I know that I think it was Cassidy that wrote in that when they looked at these stocks, they wanted to know why, when good news was coming out, the stocks continued to head lower. But when there was really no news at all, we saw this big spike, and you continue to see these run-ups. But when they're starting to report phenomenal earnings and they're starting to show that some of the growth is really coming into play, then we see the stock sell off. So they were really wondering why we're seeing this take place and what the issues are going on with the stock. And really this comes back to buy the rumor, sell the news. So what happened here back in this spike is that we knew that there was just this massive shift into electric cars. They were still seeing strong demand, and everybody knew that the growth was coming. This was a bubble, clearly. Then it kind of settled down. Now, as we start to see the growth actually come to play out, then the demand for lithium batteries, yes, it's growing, but maybe not at the pace that they expected. They didn't see the big surge in demand that they were really counting on to see this kind of bubble play out, and it starts to trend lower from there. And because of that, because of the downward slope that this stock has been on, we can zoom in a little bit, and I always highlight my candlesticks on the chart based on the relative rotation graph, just so we have an idea of where the stock is rotating relative to the S&P 500. So Quantumscape right now is in the lagging quadrant, which is red. So I am expecting it to turn higher, at least in the short term. We're looking for it to move up out of this and get back up here, probably to a key resistance level somewhere up in the low 30s. And this is going to be a key area that you want to watch on the upside, that if it gets back up in this range, look out, because it may be testing some weakness, starts to sell off from there. But you can see they had a little triangle pattern down here across the bottom, and then it kind of broke out below that, and they continued to trend lower from there. So now that's played out. This is pretty much the move that that would have expected to see. Now we want to see when it bottoms. That's what we're looking for. And since it's so low and we really don't have a line of support in the sand after this, you can just see the volatile ride that the stock's been on, and it's just trending lower right now, slowly but steady, heading to the downside. So you can have a line of support here. This is just what we want to watch. You can see that maybe it rallies 50% from here. That's a massive rally. Nothing for this stock because it's been on enormous rallies before, but 50% for most people is still an enormous profit to be made. So just because of the volatility that this stock has seen, because it's riding near this lower area of support, I'm going to say $20 is my line in the sand, that if it goes below that, I want to step away for a little while, almost until it gets back above 30. I want to play the longer uptrend here for the stock once it gets things really going and headed in the right direction. So Quantumscape, it's going to be on my bank it list today. We're going to have it as a bank it stock just because we have a support routing right below it. $20 again is my line in the sand. If it goes below that, put it on your tank it list. Don't touch it. Just right now, it's a low risk, high reward bet that you can place trades on, especially in the options market where you have limited risk, to try to ride this rebound up to $30 a share. So now our next stock is going to be 3D Systems, ticker DDD, and this one actually came up twice again from Sonny and Pamela this time. So we had two people write in for Quantumscape, we had two people write in for 3D Systems. So as we pull up this price chart, again, we had a bubble. Look at this time period, February 2021. The bubble for Quantumscapes was back here in December. Then it started to sell off. But what we see different in 3D Systems, and this is some bullish activity, is that we had a nicer bounce. Now it's coming back. It's not making lower lows yet. We actually have the potential here. It's in the lagging quadrant. Again, this rotation typically goes from lagging. You can see back here earlier this year was lagging in April. Then it went to improving, leading, then weakening in yellow, and then now it's finally back to lagging. Now we're looking for it to go to improving and leading again and kind of make a run up from this point. So where is it sitting at today? I'm going to have it, I'm looking for it to turn around somewhere in this area, this range over here, but we'll give it some wiggle room to the downside. We're just looking for this stock to bottom here in the coming weeks, to hold around these low 20s, and then turn higher from there. So since 3D Systems is really not making lower lows yet, it's holding higher here for a potential higher low. This stock's going to be more comfortably on my bank list today. Has a little bit more wiggle room, but I still think that we could be in an overall wedge pattern here until we get the breakout. So it's just something to keep in mind here as the stock trends a little higher, that we may not be heading off to the races yet. We might continue to bounce around in this range for a few weeks from here. But for now, it's going to be on my bank list. And our next stock is going to be Resonant. And this is from Jamie. And again, another stock. I know everybody's interested in these companies that saw these big spikes. This is back in February. It crashed since then, down over 50%. Now it's kind of feeding around the bottom here and trying to make something of this big crash that it's gone through. And at this point, you're just trying to hope that the sell-off has been that extreme. We had the explosive rally, massive crash. Now it starts to level off, and then maybe a steady rise after this. What I wouldn't bet on any of these companies that we've been looking at is another sharp surge like we saw earlier this year, late last year in a couple of these stocks where you had this massive rally. It's just not likely that we're going to see another bubble develop here right away. Instead, what you would be banking on and what you would be expecting is a nice steady trend. So as I put these stocks on my bank list, I'm not expecting any of them to just take off and double and triple here overnight. That's just not what you should be expecting. But I know as these stocks come up, they had the potential there. Maybe you missed a move, maybe you owned it, maybe you were trading it, and now it's coming back and you want to know if it's a buying opportunity or what. And my charts are telling me, though, that these are potential buying opportunities here, just not for another massive run higher. I mean, there's still big runs. Again, if it goes here from $2.70 up to about $4 a share, we're still talking about a 30-40% increase here in price in a matter of months, really. So still big moves. Just don't expect nothing like this to play out. Expect this to be slower, more gradual. But today, Resonant is still in the Internet of Things industry, and that's why it's seen all this volatility. But that's also why it's still going to be on my bullish mindset here long term. So let's have it on our bank list today. Again, very tight support that we want to track on the stock. Breaks below that, we just want to step aside. But for now, after the sell-off that we've seen in these companies, I don't mind adding them to my bank list, at least on the flyer here, just to keep an eye on and see what happens. Now, our next stock is Costco, and this one came from Spencer, and he actually listed off several, so I have another one of his that we're going to close out on after this. But I really like that he threw out Costco, and I wanted to feature it because of how different this chart looks. Look at that. I mean, it's a thing of beauty. Just a solid uptrend, continuing to climb higher, and people are afraid of uptrends. Look, this stock has been on a tear here over the last couple of months, and it's because the giant wholesaler has been just benefiting like crazy from people going out. They benefited throughout the pandemic from being able to stay open. Now that people are wanting to spend money, they continue to benefit. So this whole run higher here just happened since February of 2021. Now again, we saw these other charts in February going back to December. This one had a nice run up to December, but even in February, the tech stocks were booming, right? The reopening plays were going through the roof. The tech going to come back on the radar, getting chip shortages out of the way, producing. People are going to be spending big time, but the companies that were benefiting from the pandemic lockdown started to fade away a little bit, and then it just came roaring back in fashion. Now that there's the Delta variant coming up, all these other issues, Costco is going to stay in focus. You can see how long it's been in the leading quadrant here. So that worries me a bit. I mean, this has to be a bank it stock. Definitely on my bank it list, looking for it to head higher. But hey, the previous resistance turns into support. So this is a major support for the stock, just around $390 a share. It's blown past that now, sitting up around $420, $422 a share. Expect some weakness. This is on my bank it list, at least over the next several months. Doesn't mean that we don't see a short-term pullback and then continue to climb higher from there. So I'm not saying you have to chase it today and run it higher from here. So this is a bank it stock because it's trending higher. It's making higher highs, higher lows. Just look for the little bit of a pullback here, some consolidation, and then start to load up on the bullish bets as Costco continues to break out to the upside. So have it on your bank it list. Now our last stock is SoFi Technologies. This is a lending company. Just had the IPO late in 2020. So it doesn't have too much price information for us to really break down, but I use this one because it does have some room for analysis here. We have the relative rotation graph candlesticks highlighted. It's improving right now. It was lagging. Then we had a spike on a few days back. Now it's improving and it's still trending lower. So we're looking for that to kind of bottom around this area. And there's a few areas of support that I wanted to do this. So it had the massive spike on January 7th. Not even sure what that is. It doesn't really matter to me looking at the charts. I'm sure it was an earnings announcement or one of their first updates since they went public to kind of get investors bullish on the news, and that's probably all by design, right? They go public, pretty strong opening on the IPO day, got around $10 a share, steadily climbing higher since then, which is great to see. Then a nice pop. Now we're seeing some volatility, but let's just go ahead and draw in some key trends to watch here. The top area that you want to watch for is possibly this resistance line trending lower. That's going to end up creating what is likely a ascending triangle pattern. If we connect a solid support line going sideways here, there's a chance that we could be in more of a wedge shape if this kind of current close that we just had ends up holding. You can see that we can draw a angled support line there that would end up causing this to create a wedge pattern between this line, between our resistance line and this rising support. So those are some of the key areas to look at today to keep on your radar. For me, it's going to be on my bank it list, and the reason for that is because it had a strong run higher. I love seeing the strong runs higher, especially when they're not really bullish like we saw earlier. This one, you see the next run higher was almost to the same peak. It was a little lower, but again, if we can just turn higher here, not make a new lower low, which would be getting down into the low teens, 13s, down to the $12 price range, then we can make either a sideways low or a higher low, and then we can continue to be bullish on the stock. So I'm going to have it on my bank it list. Just don't expect too much craziness out of this stock lately. It could bounce around here. It could consolidate around the support before we start to see it trend higher. So I'm not looking for this to move in just a matter of weeks, but I'm talking months. Keep on your radar and have on your bank it list. So today, 5 stocks. All 5 are on my bank it list. Maybe that has something to do with the weakness that we're seeing in the market right now. Over the last few days, we've seen the stock market go from very, very bullish to had a few down days, and tech stocks are kind of taking a breather. This could last for a few more days, but overall, I think it's a great buying opportunity, and I think we're going to see stocks continue to head higher out of this. So a lot of the companies you all asked me to take a look at, they were lagging. They were close to lagging, except for Costco. That one's just showing strong strength, and we want to stay with that. But these other ones, they may or may not turn higher, but at least we have a close supports that we want to keep an eye on, and that's the key for when we run through these quick takes, that you have the key levels to watch. So for all those companies that I put on my bank it list, they're on my bank it list just by a fraction, and if we continue to see weakness in those companies, they're going to be on my tank it list, and you just want to step aside. So that's all for my video today. If you enjoyed it, just be sure to hit the thumbs up below, and don't forget to leave me a comment with the stocks that you want me to feature in an upcoming video. Any company that's on your list, doesn't matter the size, what they do, or anything like that, just add them to the comment section below, and I'll throw them on my list, and I'll be sure to bring them up here in an upcoming video. So until next time, I'm Chad Shoup.